up, guys? Welcome back to Rugged Adventures. I'm super happy to have you guys here because today I have probably the best value I think that you can get in firearms. This is the Panzer M4 Speed, and if you guys have ever been out there and you wanted to get a real deal Benelli M4, just a phenomenal shotgun. It's, you know, adopted by the Marine Corps, so that means that it's either the best or the cheapest one that people made that met the spec that they were looking for. But it is a legit shotgun from Benelli, and it's awesome. The problem is that's going to run you about $2,000 or so, the better part of $2,000, and this is only going to run you about $500 to $600 depending on which model you pick up. If you just pick up the regular Panzer M4, I think it's down in like the low 500s, maybe even you can find the 400s. This is the Speed model that has a couple of advantages, I think, over the actual Benelli M4 and that original design. And then you can pick up the Speed Pro, and the only difference that I've seen on the Speed Pro is they change out this just polymer grip here, and they put an M-LOK grip. It has M-LOK fittings all over it. I don't know what I would use that for, so I just went for the M4 Speed and, you know, saved like 80 bucks. If I want to put different grips on this in the future, I can do that. But let's look at this thing. This is an 18.5-inch combat shotgun. It's got a pistol grip back here. It's tactical shotgun, however you want to look at it. In this particular case, because it's the civilian model, it only has the 5-round tube, so you can put 6 in here. If you ghost load it, where you put another one on the elevator down here, after you load it, you can fit up to 7 in. There are tubes available for, I think, up to 7 in the tube, depending on if you're using 2 3/4 or 3-inch shells, which this fires both of them. The difference between the actual Benelli M4 and the Panzer M4 is this skeletonized stock. This is a fixed stock. The actual M4 has an adjustable stock. Honestly, this feels great to me. I've only ever used an adjustable stock just to get it to be smaller, to fit into a gun bag or something. Just like with all of my AR-15s, AR-10, anytime that I actually go to fire them, I always pull this thing out and, you know, just use it at the full distance. That's just the way that I've always run it. It's got the adjustable cheek weld, and apparently for mine, somehow the bolt fell out at some point. So, you know, maybe that's a QC issue. Maybe it's just I lost it just because I was screwing around with this thing. The one thing that I can say that I really like more than the actual M4 and also the lower end Panzer M4s is this oversized release here. On the M4, it is just a little button right here, and you have to push it. On this, it is this gigantic actuator here. You can very easily trigger it no matter really where you push it at, and so it is a much easier operation than trying to find a little tiny button and pushing that on the actual M4. Other than that, it is an exact clone. This has the ported barrel here. They even say on the Panzer website that you can use the actual Benelli parts to replace some of these if you want. They say that they should work flawlessly. But for me, anytime that I'm using a semi-automatic shotgun, one of the biggest things that I say if it's good or not is, can it run very light loaded shells? These are just your federal birdshot target loads, and we will load some of these up here and see if it will run these shells without any problems, because most semi-auto shotguns are going to be able to run higher powered shells. You know, Buckshot, slugs, things of that nature. Just because of the amount of force going into them, it makes it very easy for the weapon to cycle. Now this thing here, I believe that this has an oversized loading port down here, and the one thing I will caution you guys is this thing will catch your thumb. If the elevator here will catch your thumb if you're not paying any attention to it, and I think I have all of them in there, so we have 6 loaded. Let me get some hearing protection on here. We'll also put one here on the match saver, on the side of this thing, because that is something that the Speed comes with, and I believe the Speed Pro also comes with. We'll take it off a safe and see if we can get all 6 of these to run. I've had a pretty favorable day. I've only had once or twice where this did not go off without a hitch. So let's see if you can count all 6. And then we can pull that one in there, flip our thing, and then we got 7 of very low power loads just ripping out of there like nobody's business. And that is really all thanks, and it actually didn't lock the bolt back on that one, so that would have been a failure to feed on that last one, but it did get through all of them. If you guys are not familiar with the actual Benelli M4, It has the Argo gas system, and it's like auto-regulated gas-operated system, and it has 2 pistons in here on either side of the barrel, and you can go look on other things if you want, because we're not going to disassemble this on camera, but that pushes the bolt back whenever it's fired. It's basically like a gas system, similar in operation to like an AR-15, but completely different assembly here. And when I first got this gun, I was not able to fire low power loads like that without having any problems. You get 1, maybe 2, and so I took this thing down, I disassembled it, I cleaned it, and I noticed that one of these was hanging up on one side of this, and I think it had to do with how the grip and everything was put together, or it was just hanging up from assembly stuff, or just something was in there. So once I took this thing down, cleaned it, lubricated it all up, it worked flawlessly, and it has since been working pretty flawlessly ever since. But let's get into some heavier loads and have some fun with this thing. So being that this is a tactical shotgun, it has some pretty decent sights on it. It's got the ghost ring sights, if you guys can see that. And you know, Panzer could have probably cheaped out and made these of plastic or whatever they wanted, but as far as I know, that these are made of metal and they're pretty good. So we're going to try some slugs. They're called Captor. These are also from Turkey. These are 2 3/4 slugs, 1,375 feet per second. We got some targets out there at about 25 yards, and we will give this a shot to see, you know, how accurate it is. And really, a lot of that is going to also come down to me. And I'm going to show you guys something that I sort of have found with this that is a bit of a problem. When you put this in, and I don't know if this is the way it is with the actual Benelli, these very high power, higher brass rounds tend to get stuck right there. So you really have to push down and push them in. If you have an actual real deal Benelli M4 out there, leave it in comments if this is a problem for you as well, or if it is just a problem on this particular gun. With these higher brass loads, they can get a little hung up, but the thing is that you can just push it down a little bit more, jam it in there, and you should be good to go. So let's see if we can hit our targets. I've already actually done this a few times before we started the camera rolling. It wasn't really that big of a deal, but this is definitely a much hotter round than the birdshot that we've been shooting thus far. That's pretty good right there. Hit that one. Those ones don't ring much. Missed on that one. Hit it that time because they're on those rubber mounts, so they don't ring as much. Those things hit like crazy, those big slugs, and they obviously have no problem cycling this whole thing. So let's try some of these double-aught bucks. These are also Captor from Turkey, and I haven't had any problem with this ammunition. It's incredibly cheap online versus what you can get at your local store. 2 3/4, 1,360 feet per second. We'll see how this does. Again, if you guys have never loaded an M4, it is a bit different than loading a pump gun, whereas you have to at least have the bolt forward. Typically you put 1 in there, or else the elevator will not move for you to load more into the magazine here. And again, doing this, there is a bit of a hang up there sometimes, and you have to push that down quite a bit in order to get that high brass ammunition through. Let's see how we do with our double-aught buck here, and I don't think we're going to have any issues with it. And yeah, absolutely no problems with the double-aught buck. But let's try this. Let's see, can we fire this from the hip? That's kind of the biggest thing with gas guns, which this is. You should be able to fire from the hip, at least with the higher power ammunition. So we have, let's see, 3 or 4 in there. I don't remember how many that we put in, but let's see if we can just hip fire this guy without even and let the gas system do everything. You can definitely hip fire this. Let's see with the lower power ammunition if we are also able to just let this dude rip from the hip. I always like to pop the safety on, which is always a good idea, but pop the safety on when we're loading these for obvious reasons, but it's something that you may not think about because you usually don't have to, you know, rack one forward and necessarily to load the magazine. Maybe if you want to get the full, you know, as many shells into the gun as you can, but just to get them into the magazine, you have to have that bolt forward. So here we go on these, again, lower powered Federal shells, and we got the wind whipping here, so my lighting's probably going to crash into us at some point. But let's see, from the hip, low powered. Stovepipe that one. So this may not be a thing that we can do. Let me put a little bit more oomph into it and kind of hold on to it a little bit better. And that one ejected, but wasn't able to rack the next one. So it looks like you will have to have this one on your shoulder and shouldered in order to fire those lower powered ones without having a jam, but I don't think that that's too terribly bad. So the 12 gauge is an absolute wrecking ball of a round, and what makes it so wild is that you can have so many different flavors of it, of all sorts of energy levels, from the slugs to the buckshot of all the different types to the birdshot target loads. And what makes the M4 and you know, the original, the Benelli, and this one so awesome is that you should be able to shoot all of those in succession without having to readjust the rifle like you may have to do with a lot of other rifles that rely on gas systems to run their stuff, and you start changing things up, adding suppressors or whatever, you have to you know, adjust for that. So we have 7 targets here, from concrete to a bunch of different water bottles that I have. I have this thing loaded up in, it's definitely slug, birdshot, buckshot, buckshot, buckshot. I think the last one in the mag is a slug, and then we have buckshot here on the round saver. We're going to see how many of these I can hit, and if it's going to cycle all of them. I think our weak point here is definitely the target load birdshot, and we'll see how it does. Man, that is just wild with that slug. That if you hit that with an AR-15, the chances of it just destroying that are not really high. So here is our birdshot. I think it works. There we go. There's so much energy from these things that it's hitting other things. There we go. Let's hit it again. The 12 gauge is just such a ridiculously powerful cartridge, especially at this range that we're at here, which is probably only like 12 yards. So the chances of you missing are incredibly low, which makes this a fabulous home defense gun. Whether you think this one is or other 12 gauges, it's just a terrific home defense gun. This particular one so far has been almost flawless, other than when we took it out of the box and we started working on it. It now has about 200, maybe 250, maybe 300 shells through it. So I would say that it's getting into being broken in, especially with rapid fire shooting. All of these larger shells, such as the double-aught buck and the slugs. If you guys like this, hit that like button for me. Subscribe down below. We're going to be doing a lot more with this. I really want to get one of those 12 gauge suppressors, like the Silencer Co. Salvo 12. So if this video does really well, we can afford the almost $1,000 for a 12 gauge suppressor to see how that works. So all in all, I am extremely impressed with the Panzer M4 Speed and their M4 line. It seems to work tremendously well. As a matter of fact, I was watching one of Hitchcock's 45's videos on this, and he said that his actual Benelli M4 was not able to reliably cycle those lower powered birdshot shells, whereas this Panzer M4 absolutely can. So guys, I appreciate you all hanging out with me today, and I'll see you in the next one.